Hello, boys and girls. Today we're going to continue with our study of trigonometry by looking at some verbal problems that involve right triangle trigonometry. Okay, let's take a look at number 4. A plane takes off from a field and rises at an angle of 11 degrees. So you have a plane and it takes off. Okay, and it rises at an angle, here's the ground, of 11 degrees. All right, there's the plane taking off. I'll draw my terrible picture of a plane. Okay, the plane takes off, rises at an angle of 11 degrees with the horizontal, meaning the ground. And they would like you to find to the nearest foot the height of the plane above the ground. After the plane has traveled a horizontal distance, that means if you were driving under the plane, you would have covered 1,500 feet. Okay, the distance from the plane to the ground, it covered a horizontal distance of 1,500 feet. Its actual distance, I don't know. We could find that out later. Okay, so there's your picture. So remember, we write the acronym SOHCAHTOA. And then we list the information that we have. We have an 11-degree angle, we have an X, and we have a 1,500. Now, if you're here at the 11 degrees, the 1,500 touches you. And so the 1,500 would be the adjacent. The X doesn't touch. And so that would be your opposite. The X does not touch the angle. That would be the opposite. The line that touches is the adjacent, and the hypotenuse is not involved in this question. So now you have O and A. So now you look at your 3 trig functions, sine, cosine, and tangent, and you see which one has O and A. And that would be tangent. The tangent of 11 degrees is the opposite over the hypotenuse, over the adjacent. The tangent of 11 is opposite is X, adjacent is 1,500. Let's go to your calculator. Make sure you're in the right mode. Make sure you're in degree mode, press mode. Okay. And let's find the tangent of 11. Tangent 11, close parentheses. 0.1943 equals X over 1,500. You have a fraction equal to something. That's a proportion. Put this over 1 and let's cross multiply. 1 times X is X. And 0.1943 times 1,500 is 292 approximately. If you put 291, it's not the end of the world. Okay. Hope you can see, all see that. It's 292 feet. Okay, from the ground. Let's look at another one. Number 5. A man leans a 50-foot ladder against the side of a building. Okay, so we have a building. And the man is going to lean a 50-foot ladder against the side of a building. So here's your ladder, and it's 50 feet. Okay. Now, he wants the ladder to reach a height of 20 feet on the side of a building. So he would like the ladder to be 20 feet high. But he doesn't know what angle to place it at with the floor, with the ground. Okay? He doesn't know, he doesn't have measuring for 20, but he has to place it a certain number of degrees so that it reaches 20 feet high on the building. Let's write our acronym SOHCAHTOA. Let's list our information. We have an angle of X We have a 50 and we have a 20. There's our information. The 50, I think you can see, is the hypotenuse, the slanted line. The 20 does not touch the angle. That would be the opposite. So our problem involves H and O. Look at your three trig functions and see which one has H and O. Right there. Sine. The sine of an angle is the opposite, go by the spelling in the acronym, over the hypotenuse. The sine of x degrees is the opposite over the hypotenuse. See, in this one, we know the sine, we don't know the angle. We're looking for an angle. Remember, when you're looking for an angle, you press second sine. Or if it was cosine, second cosine. If it was tangent, second tangent. Second sine when you're looking for an angle. Second sine, second cosine, or second tangent. Second sine, 20 over 50. Okay. Second sine, 20 divided by 50, close parentheses. And it says about 24 degrees. Okay. Look at the next one. A lighthouse built at sea level has a height of 170 feet. Okay, so got the water, then we've got this lighthouse. That's 170 feet high. The angle of elevation from a boat out at sea to the top of the lighthouse. So there's some boat out here. My terrible diagram of a boat. Whose angle of elevation, in other words, if someone was standing in the boat and looking straight, they would have to raise their head 25 degrees to look at the top of the lighthouse. Someone in the boat has to raise their head 25 degrees to look at the top of the lighthouse. That's what angle of elevation is. The number of degrees you would have to raise your head to look at the top of something. Okay? And they would like to know, how far is the boat from the lighthouse? So here's the boat, here's the lighthouse, here's your X. Right. Let's write our acronym SOHCAHTOA. And let's list our information. We have an angle of 25 degrees. We have 170. And we have an X. Now, if you are here at the 25 degrees, the X touches you. That means the X is the adjacent. If you're here at the 25, the 170 does not touch. That's the opposite. So our problem involves O and A. Let's see which one of these has O and A. Not sine. Cosine is A and H, but tangent is O and A. The tangent of an angle, go by the spelling here, is the opposite over the adjacent. The tangent of 25 is the opposite, 170 is the opposite, over the adjacent X. Let's go to the calculator and find the tangent of 25. 0.4663. Equals 170 over X. We have a fraction equal to something. That's a proportion. We're going to cross multiply. 0.4663X equals 170 times 1. Now we're going to get the X alone. We're going to divide by 0.4663. Okay. see what that is. 170 divided by 0.4663 is about 365 feet. That boat is 365 feet from the lighthouse. Okay. All right, let's look at the next one. And of course, you should be pausing the video and trying these problems on your own first before you watch me do them. Okay, a boy stands 30 feet from the base of a tree. So we have this tree. And we have a boy that's standing 30 feet from the base of the tree. Okay, there he is, 30 feet from the base of the tree. The angle of elevation from the boy to the top of the tree is 53. In other words, if the boy wants to look up to the top of the tree, he has to raise his head 53 degrees. If he's looking straight and he wants to look at the top of the tree, he raises his head 53 degrees. He wants to see how tall the tree is without actually having to climb the tree. So let's write our word SOHCAHTOA. And let's list our information. We have an angle of 53. We have a 30. And we have an X. Let's classify. If I'm standing here at the 53, the 30 touches. Therefore, the 30 is adjacent. If I'm standing here at the 53, the X does not touch. That means it's the opposite. Now see which trig function has A and O. Well, A and O would be tangent. The tangent of an angle, go by the spelling in the acronym, is O over A. Opposite over adjacent. The tangent of 53 is X, the opposite, over 30, the adjacent. Let's go to the calculator and get the tangent of 53. Tangent 53, close parentheses, 1.327. 1.3270 equals X over 30. You got a fraction equal to something, that's a proportion. You're going to cross multiply. 1 times X is X equals 1.3270 times 30. Okay. And I get about 40. 39.8. That tree is about 40 feet tall. And let's try number 8. An artillery spotter in a plane. So I have a plane. Again, my bad diagram of a plane. He's in a plane at an altitude of 1,000 feet. So this plane is 1,000 feet off the ground. Here's the ground. He observes an angle of depression to a tank on the ground. I'm not going to try to draw a tank, but there's some tank on the ground. And he sees it. Looks down and sees it. Now, this is angle of depression. Now be careful here, kids. If the pilot's looking straight, he has to lower his head 28 degrees to look down. In other words, if he's looking straight, he now has to lower his head 28 degrees. Notice that the angle of depression is not in the triangle. It's not up here. It's not this one. It's this one here, outside. But since this is parallel to this, that angle equals this angle. Or another way to look at it, the number of degrees that the pilot has to lower his head is the same number of degrees that the person in the tank would have to raise their head to see the plane. The angle of depression up here is the same as the angle of elevation down here. So a good idea whenever they talk about angle of depression, just make it angle of elevation down here. Okay? And they want to know how far is the tank from the point on the ground directly below the spotter, the plane. And that would be that there. So make sure you note this information about angle of depression. Watch it a few times. All right, let's write our word SOHCAHTOA. Let's list our information. We have an angle that's 28. We have an X, and we have 1,000. If I'm here at the 28, the X touches adjacent. The X touches the angle. If I'm here at the 28, the 1,000 doesn't touch, opposite. Quite a few of these problems with tangent. Don't read anything into that. It's just coincidence. Again, A and O. Which one has A and O? Tangent. The tangent of an angle is the O over A, opposite over adjacent. The tangent of 28 is O, that's 1,000, over the adjacent X. Let's go to the calculator and look up the tangent of 28. 0.5317. Is equal to 1,000 over X. Again, we have a fraction equal to something, put that over 1 and cross multiply. 0.5317X equals 1,000 times 1. Now we have to get the X alone. Divide both sides by 0.5317. 1,000 divided by 0.5317. I get 1,881. That tank is 1,881 feet below the plane. Okay. All right, kids. That's most of these problems. All of these problems are right triangles. Okay, that's why it's right triangle trigonometry. Again, you write your acronym, you see which function you have to use. Remember, if you're looking for an angle, you press second and the word. Okay. All right, I will see you next time. Practice these a few times, watch the video a few times until it's clear. Okay, and we'll talk soon.
That we fell into a rhythm where the music don't stop for life. Glitter in the sky, glitter in my eyes, shining just the way you like. If you're feeling like you need a little bit of company, you met me at the perfect time. You want me, I want you, baby. My sugar boo, I'm levitating. The Milky Way, we're renegading. Yeah, 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 yeah. I got you, moonlight, you're my starlight. I need you.
One of the greatest, ain't no debating on it. I'm still levitated, I'm heavily medicated. Ironic, I gave him love and they end up hating on me. She told me she loved me and she been waiting. Been fighting hard for your love and I'm running thin on my patience. Needing someone to hug, even took it back to the basics. You see what you got me out here doing? Might have threw me off, but can't nobody stop the movement. Let's go. Left foot, Right foot levitating, pop stars, do a leap with the baby. I had to lace my shoes for all the blessings I was chasing. If I ever slip, I fall into a better situation. So catch up, go put some cheese on it, get out and get your bread up. They always leaving you far, but you run together. Weight of the world on my shoulders, I kept my head up. Now baby, stand up, cause girl, you
want me, I want you, baby. My sugar boo, I'm levitating. The Milky Way, we're renegading. Yeah, 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 yeah. I got you, moonlight. You're my starlight. I need you all night. Come on, dance with me. I'm levitating. You, moonlight. You're my starlight. I need you all night. Come on, dance with me. I'm levitating. You can fly away with me tonight. You can fly away with me tonight. Baby, let me take you for a ride. Yeah, 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 yeah. I'm levitating. You can fly away with me tonight. You can fly away with me tonight. Baby, let me take you for a ride. Yeah, 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 yeah. My love is like a rocket with your blast off, and I'm feeling so electric, that's so awesome. And even if I wanted to, I can't stop. Yeah, 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 yeah. My love is like a rocket with your blast off, and I'm